Did you know that you could do this using FL stock sounds? Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make samples like the one you just heard using just stock sounds in FL Studio. So it doesn't take much, and really you're just going to get creative with what you do have. So if you can't really afford any of those external VSTs, or you might not have enough space for your computer to run those sounds or those plugins, or you just don't want to use external plugins like myself, then this video is going to be perfect for you. I'm going to show you the sounds that I use, and most of these sounds are just being used repeatedly. You'll see that as we go on in the video. But without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first thing that I started out with is this Rhodes Piano. Now this Rhodes Piano is a direct wave. We're not going to be using a lot of plugins as far as virtual instruments go. I think we only use one in this entire instrumental. For the most part, we'll be using direct waves and one shot that are already in FL Studio. So this Rhodes Piano, this is a direct wave Rhodes Piano, and you can actually find it if you go to your packs and then you go to instruments, keyboards, and it's this Rhodes Piano right here that we are using. Now, I didn't do anything special to the Rhodes Piano. All I did was on the mixer, I added this EQ to kind of clean it up some. I did a little bit of chorus effect on it just to kind of open it up, widen it out some, and I got some reverb, and then I have some delay. So there's not much going on with that. The sound already sounds pretty good, so you don't have to really do much to the sound. What I did was I laid down these chords. So I laid these down on the piano, but if you don't really know how to play piano, or you don't have a keyboard to be able to lay things down like this, basically what I'm doing here, I am doing an E flat major. I'm in the key of C minor, but I'm starting on the E flat major, and I'm hitting it 2 times, and I'm just stopping on the third hit. It's just a short hit on that third hit, and then I'm just walking up from the C, E, G, and then we're going back to the F minor. Same exact pattern. We're hitting it 2 times, and then we are hitting a short hit. And I just got these laid down at the bottom because these are the root notes that are playing with those. And then we're just going back down. The pattern is so simple. We go from the F back up to the G, down to the F, down to the C, and then we go back to that E flat major chord. And that's literally all we're doing. The only thing different is here at the end, we're going to do a double hit on our G right here, walking it back down to the F and to the C. And you'll notice that first thing first is that these are off beat. They're not completely on the grid, and that's how you get that soulful vibe that we have in this. You don't want everything to hit directly on the grid. Number one, you want it to sound like somebody's actually playing it. Number two, somebody's actually playing it, so it does sound like this. And whenever someone is playing, they don't always hit directly on the beat every single time, and that's just what gives it that feeling to it. Another thing that I do is these volumes, since I played it, the volumes are set at different levels, but you do want to make sure if you're laying it down by mouse or by a cursor that you do go in and you adjust some of those volumes to make it sound more realistic. And this is what that sounds like by itself. Easy and simple. The next thing is after that is actually a closed grand piano, and this closed grand piano is also a direct wave. So we bring it up here, and you'll find it in the exact same place right here, your closed grand piano. And the good thing about direct waves is that they don't take up very much CPU. Now I am on an actual tower computer, but if you were using a laptop and you didn't have very much CPU, these don't take up very much CPU when you're using them by themselves or with other plugins as well, because they don't have too much. Basically, these are just one shots, big one shots. So yeah, these save a lot on CPU, So I definitely recommend using them. And this piano is doing the exact same thing that the Rhodes piano is doing. And I only have a fruity parametric EQ on it and some reverb on it as well. And then I have it panned to the right, whereas I have the Rhodes piano panned to the left. But it's doing the exact same thing. I'll let you hear what that sounds like. And as you can see, it has a much warmer tone to it. But if you put these two together, they sound really good just together, because I wanted to have this entire tone follow all the way through. So this is what it sounds like together. That is our Rhodes piano and our grand piano. The next thing that I did aside from that, or after that should I say, is I found this bass. And this bass is one of my favorite basses. If you look at my last video, I'm pretty sure I used this same exact bass in the last video. And this is a one-shot bass that is stock in FL Studio. If you go over to your packs again, then you'll go, instead of instruments, you'll go to Legacy, then you'll go to instruments, then you'll go to bass. And it's this first bass right here, this bass E, F, E minor. I guess that's what that says. I don't know if that's supposed to be name or anything, but that's the bass that I'm using, and it's not in the key of E minor. It doesn't seem like it is, because I always use it, and it's always on C. This is the bass that I'm using, and I don't do much to it. As you can see, nothing's done here in the envelope, nothing's done here, but on the mixer, I did use some stock plugins. Like first, I used this parametric EQ because I wanted to boost up some of the low end of the bass, and I want to kind of bring in some of that low mid, which is more of a warmer tone to it. And then after that, I put on some distortion because I wanted to enhance and make it sound a little bit stronger, but I also wanted to have a bit of saturation on that top end. And then after that, I just added another instance of EQ, and it was to kind of boost up the high end here, or the harmonics. I wanted to take out some of it because it was a little bit more than I wanted, and it was cutting through a little bit steeper than I wanted, so I just cut it out there. But that is all that is on that bass, and of course the bass is going right down the center in the mixer. It's following the bass notes of the piano. Look right here, it's doing the exact same thing that the piano is doing as far as bass notes. You got the E flat and then the F, and these are just walking up. Now I did add a few extra notes in it, just some shorter notes, just to kind of give the bass a little bit more movement than doing the exact same thing as the piano. So this note, we would treat it like it's a grace note, or a sort of a grace note, and you can see the volume on that is about the same as the other one. So I wouldn't even say it's a grace note, it's just an accent note, should I say. This one's more like a grace note. We don't actually use the B flat chord, but we do use B flat in this progression of C minor. And then here's a little rundown just to kind of make it a little bit different from the rest of it. And I also have another instance of the bass, and I'll show you that as well, where I add a little bit of a run. And so basically I use the exact same bass, or the exact same pattern, but I added a little bit of a run in it. But first, I'm going to let you hear what this bass sounds like by itself. So as you can see, it's very simple, very plain. I don't want to have to play the whole thing for you and bore you. But if we go to our bass that is similar to it, you'll see it's the exact same bass, but I added this little run in here just to kind of give it some variation throughout the song. So that's another key thing. I use a lot of the same instruments, but I do a little bit of a changes. So all you got to do is, make the pattern unique, and then you can make some changes to it. And this is what this one sounds like. And it sounds like somebody's actually playing it, so everything's not on beat completely, and most of it actually is completely off beat, but it's that delay to it that gives it, or it's like being in a pocket, and it gives it that feel that we are looking for. So that is our bass, and the next thing is the string. Now I got string solo, and I got multiple instances of the string solo as well. The first one is just playing the exact same thing that the bass and the piano is playing up top. It's just following that same exact pattern. We're not doing too much, but we added in some extra hits to basically give us a melody, right? So we're following the same progression, but we have some different hits here that give us our melody. That's basically the melody that you hear throughout the instrumental. And then right below, it's just the bass notes going up and then going back down. And that's just to kind of enhance or accent the notes that are already being played and gives it a stronger vibe to it. And it also makes it sound very, very vintage. So on those strings, the only thing I have, first off, I pan that basically hard left, but on the mixer here, or I'm sorry, in the controls down here, if we go to note pan, you'll see that I got them panned differently. So some of these notes are panned to the left or right, whichever one that is further or less further than some other ones. And then I have another instance of the strings where they're panned to the left and it's a lot further. So it basically spreads these out, but on the mixer, it almost sounds like they're spread out on that side, or on the left side, should I say. I have the Fruity Parametric EQ on it to clean it up and enhance different places. I also put a fast distortion on it because I wanted it to sound a lot more aggressive. I added some reverb to it, and I also added some delay. And these are just basic things that I tend to add to them all the time. If it don't need it, it doesn't need it, but I like to add more to it, and it does enhance the sound. Now, here's the thing about FL Studio sounds. They have great sounds, but some of those sounds still need to be worked on and enhanced if you want to bring it to life. So that's what I did with those, and this is what that sounds like. Very simple, very straight to the point, and it's not doing too much, creating good space for the melody to be heard, which that is the melody. So with having the pianos stop and the bass stop where they stop at, it gives that particular instrument room to be heard and to breathe. After that, I did another instance of the string solos, and it's just following the root notes. It's all it's doing here. And this is the exact same setting. I got this sent to the exact same mixer track. All those same settings that I showed you, or plugins that are there at first, is on these. And these are panned. If you look right here, these are actually panned to the different side. So these are going to the left down here. And this is what it sounds like, just following the root notes. So when it comes to things like this, you don't have to do a lot, just keeping it simple, just keeping it moving. It's going to make it sound great, and it's going to give that artist more room to shine. But you'll notice here, I cut some up here because this is one big loop itself, one pattern. But as you can see, it stops here. There's a hit here, and then we give it room, and the same thing here on this end is a hit here, and we give it room. So I just stopped it, but it actually does that throughout the entire song, but I made the loop and then just cut it up to fit it. The string solo actually is a direct wave as well. You go to your packs once again, and then you go to your instruments. It's going to be under orchestral, and you got the string section, and then you have the string solo. And what we're going to work on next is the string section, so you can find it there. And these do sound different. That's the reason I'm using both of them, because they don't sound the same, and they both kind of have a unique sound to them. String solo sounds like one playing, and string section sounds like multiple of them playing. With the string section, we're just following those root notes again. I built out the chords here. I kind of built them out in an inversion, because if you look here, the E flat is here, then we go to the B flat, and then we go to the G. The root note is actually E flat, but I wanted it to sound a little bit more wide. I didn't want it to sound too close, so I built them out this way. And the same thing here with the F, the F minor. I'm sorry, the F is here. And then we got the C, and then instead of using the F as the root note, we are using the A flat as the root note. On the mixer, what I have for those string, or the string section, is very simple. I have EQ on it, cleaning up a lot of the low end, because we don't want to take up, with these strings, with a lot of string sounds, they do have that low frequency in them, but we want our bass to be heard well, and we want our kick to be heard well. So I cleaned up a lot of that bass in, and then I put Spreader on there. And Spreader is one of the newer plugins in FL Studio. If you don't have FL Studio 24, update to FL Studio 24 to use Spreader, and this is going to make this sound like it's been spread wide. And I also spread it in the mixer as well, or I separate it in the mixer as well to give it a bigger sound. And then after that, I just threw on some reverb, just kind of sat it in the space there. These are the exact same chords, the E flat major up to the F minor, and this is what the string section sounds like. And it's just there to accent the rest of the sounds. It's there to accent the pianos. It's there to accent the other string section. And lastly, or second to lastly, should I say, I have this pad. And this is a pad. This is the VST I said that we used. We actually use GMS. And this is actually a pad that I created in GMS. I call it Rated Air. I have a couple of presets of my own here that I created. But using this as my pad, and it's just following the same thing that the strings are doing. But we're not hitting the notes twice. We're just hitting it one time. And on our mixer, the only thing that I have on it is this EQ to kind of clean up that low end and take out some of the high end. And this is what that sounds like. And as you may notice, it sounds really low because it's not something that's going to be, that we want to be heard in the forefront of everything. We want it to be more like a feeling just kind of behind everything. And it's kind of like that atmosphere where the sound is sitting in, or the song is sitting in. So it's not too loud. And of course, these are also played in, so they look like they're a little bit off beat. The last thing I added as far as the melody goes is the guitar. And the guitar actually has a lot going on. And I have a video where I explain exactly how to make your guitar sound like this using just stock plugins. But I will let you see what this sounds like. And this has a little bit more movement than the rest of it. And I have multiple patterns of the guitar because instead of having it go all the way through one time, I basically separated it so I can put one in one area and one in the other area. But you don't have to do that. It is wise, or I say it's better to play these out on the piano. But what I did is I do a lot of pitch bending, so my channel pitch, and it's easier for me to record that in instead of going in and doing it by hand. Which, if you want to do it by hand, you definitely can do it by hand. But what I like to do is with my guitar, which is also a direct wave, I like to go here and click on this pitch bend wheel, and I like to link it to my controller. And now I can control the pitch with my MIDI controller. So that helps when I play, I can bend the pitch. Yep, and that just helps. And you can pitch bend down as well. So it's easier that way. If you have a MIDI controller, you definitely I recommend using your pitch bend with your MIDI controller. But that's all I'm doing here. And as you'll see, I'm not hitting the notes dead on. Like this is a B flat, but when it plays, you'll hear it pitch bend up to C. I just added some filler notes to kind of give it some more movement, some more feeling into it. So this is all freestyle, basically. Like sometimes it might take a long time to make these. Sometimes I can just make it real quick. It just depends on your flow. You don't have to make your beats that fast. You can take your time to do it. That's what I did with these. I'm using hardcore. It does come with FL Studio, but it doesn't come with every edition of FL Studio. So if you don't have hardcore available to you in FL Studio, you do have fast distortion, which is just a distortion plugin. You also have reverb, and then you have delay. All these are already there for you. So if you can just use those instead of using hardcore, you could just throw that chain onto your mixer track channel. After that, I have Fruity Parametric EQ. I have some hyperchords to kind of widen it up some. I added more delay, but this delay is very, very subtle. And then I got a limiter to add some saturation to it to just make it sound more into the mix. And this is what that sounds like. That's one instance of the guitar, and then I have another instance of the guitar that is right here, and this is basically the first instance of that guitar. And as you can see, this one isn't doing nearly as much movement as the first one was, and it's also not doing nearly as much pitch bending. It's just that one pitch bend that we have in this one. So that's just to kind of spice it up and whatnot. I basically, if you notice, a lot of these, like, they look different in different spots. Like the bass right here is doing one thing here. but it's doing something different here. And all I did with this part was I just cut up the bass that I already have. So if we zoom in here, this little part right here is the first note. This one little part right here is the first note, and it's literally the first note here. It's the exact same first note here. I just cut it short, so it's this exact same first note. I just cut it short. And then if you look at these shorter notes here that's going ba-dum, those are these notes here. So these little filler notes that are right here in the end or beginning of the lines. It's just little filler notes. So that's all it's doing. And then this part right here is that lick that we have. So it's that same exact lick that we have in our other instance of the bass. So I just got creative with it and just kind of cut it up and moved it there. And it also gave the bass just kind of like a different rhythm. I tell people all the time, use what you have. You already have a bass, just kind of cut it up and see what other sounds or rhythms that you can come up with when you do that. As far as the drums go, I'm just using regular old stock drums. So this kick, we open it up. I do believe it's one of my favorites, but if we locate it in the browser, it's going to show us. So it's this one right here. Yeah, and I favorite it so I can always get back to it. That's the kick. I'm using a rim shot as well, the 707 rim shot. I did, so this is the regular old rim shot that we have in FL Studio, and then the hi-hat, there it is. So it is also one of my favorites. This one is in the samples. So if you go to your packs, you go to Legacy, and then you go to Samples, WA Productions, under Hats and Samples. So that's where I get that from. Those are all the drums, and I have them off beat as well. One thing I will say, you want the kind of the first hits to be on beat. Like, of course, the very first one you want to be on beat for each bar, but then after that, you can just kind of move around. This one is on beat, but this one is a little bit off the beat. If you see, it's almost right on the beat, but it's off of it. And I did that. I played it in, but I did that so it would sound more realistic and more natural. And the same thing for the hi-hat. The hi-hat has a lot going on, some stopping and some going. And if you look at these velocities here, the velocities are kind of, they're not random, but they have a certain kind of pattern to them where some are lower, some are higher, some are low, but not quite as low. That is to basically give it a feeling that is being played by someone in real life. And as you'll see here, these are also off the grid. Some are on the grid and some are off the grid. And that gives us this unique kind of sound that we have. There's not much going on with the drums. I don't really do much to my drums. I do for the kick. I have a Fruity Parametric EQ. I have the distortion to kind of make it cut, and then of course the EQ again to shape that distortion. For my snare drum, I have an EQ cutting out all of that low, that rim shot, cutting out all of the low end there, and then I have reverb, just a small amount. If you look here on the mixer, it's just a small amount of reverb just blended in, just to kind of sit it in the space that it's in. And then for my hi-hat, I have just another parametric EQ and some more reverb as well. Very simple. Everything here is FL Studio native. You don't need to go find any other external plugins, external sounds, or anything like that to make instrumentals like these in FL Studio. You just got to get creative with what you do have. It takes time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you are looking for some drums, I do have some linked into the description here. I have a little multi-kit that is available. If you got any kind of questions, leave those in the comments, and also throw out some video ideas. I will be more than happy to make some tutorials or some deconstruction videos for any type of beat that you might want to learn how to make. I will see y'all in the next video.